Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. I'm Deb from DG Reads, and I'm here today to kick off a reading vlog preparing for my vacation. In March, I'm heading off on a much anticipated vacation with my best friend to an all-inclusive resort in Cabo San Lucas, and I cannot wait. So in preparation for that, I got really excited to consider the idea of reading some destination vacation type of reads, particularly resort reads, although I strayed a bit from that concept here, and kind of figuring out what a vacation could look like, perhaps with a bit of a dark twist. When this vlog goes live, I will most likely be sitting by the pool, perhaps with coffee or a drink in hand, reading lots of books and enjoying my life. Relaxation is definitely needed after the way this year started, so we are embracing the turning things around vibes and the looking forward to an exciting adventure in Mexico. So I do have a TBR set for this vlog. It may shift a little bit as things sometimes do, but I figured I would introduce you to the books I am planning to read. Starting with the one that's really the straying off the whole resort concept, I have Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. And this one is not set at a resort, but it definitely has those resort-y type of vibes from the cover. It's actually set in Italy. We're following a best-selling author on an author tour. There's a character she wants to kill off in her book series, and this character is based on someone in her real life who has weaseled his way into her life, and it seems like in the real life someone's actually planning to kill him maybe. So I know this one is much beloved by many people, and I'm really excited to get to it. And then I have Bad Tourist by Caro Carver. This one is set at a resort. I've seen some mixed reviews with this one, so I'm going in with high hopes, but maybe some measured expectations. This one we're following three best friends. They are traveling to an exclusive, isolated resort setting. It is beautiful. They have private villas. They are getting to celebrate one of their divorces and some other big life changes going on. But then a body washes on shore apparently, so I look forward to finding out what that's all about. And then I have We Are Hunted by Tommy Oya Makinde, and this one is a YA horror, and it is a boy and his brother and his father. They're going to this exclusive island resort. It's something that's kept very quiet. There's non-disclosure agreements, it sounds like. When they get there, there's a really unique setting, it sounds like, but then the setting turns on them. I don't know, but I'm intrigued. And then lastly, I have The Ruins by Scott Smith. This one starts at a resort, I think, or at least at a Mexico vacation destination. And there are a couple of couples. They make friends while they are staying there. And when someone goes missing, they go off into the jungle to find them and things go wrong. This is a gifted copy I received from Vintage Books that I've been wanting to get to. So I don't think any of these necessarily are going to spell out a vacation I exactly want to experience for myself, but I am very excited to read all of these vacation settings, all of these fun stories, and I will be back once I get to reading and share my initial thoughts. It's a fairly chilly morning, so even more than ever, I am looking forward to my vacation. So I figured I would check in about my first vacation read. I started Bad Tourist by Caro Carver last night, and I'm not quite to the halfway point, but I'm finding this to be a good multitasking book, so I wanted to be able to listen today without having to worry about whether I'm overshooting or whether I'm finishing the book before checking in with you. This one, we are following a group of women primarily who are going on a divorce vacation. One of them has ended her relationship with her husband, and these three unlikely friends have come together to go to this fabulous resort to celebrate her moving on to the next stage of life. The book begins what I believe is 17 years earlier. I could be a little off on that, but one of these three women is on a school trip. She's there to meet her professor, other students for a field trip, and she gets there late through a whole whole series of circumstances. When she wakes up in the morning, she can't find anyone, and then she goes to someone's door to try to look for the rest of her group, and she finds her professor dead. It turns out everyone in this hotel has been killed except for her. Obviously a very traumatic event, and as the book goes on, we learn a little bit more about how she met her friends and how that all kind of ties in with this. I'm assuming this is going to come into the story more as we go, but currently that was a very strong opening, I would say. It definitely had me hooked and intrigued and disturbed a little bit about what was happening in those opening scenes. We're also meeting another young woman that these ladies are befriending. She's there on her honeymoon, but it's already not a happy marriage. She's got a big bruise on her face, which we know was caused by her husband. And there's definitely some sense of these women maybe taking her under their wing a little bit. So far, this is a story of friendship, which I really enjoy, and it's kind of been setting up for more things. So I'm eager to see how this is going to pop off and get going. The synopsis, I know they are going to find a body on the beach, that there's a lot of secrets going on in here, and it definitely doesn't sound like the vacation I want, but the resort sounds lovely. So with that, I'm going to keep reading this one today, and I'll be back when I have more thoughts. I've been dismantling furniture because I have a new dining room set coming, but in the meantime, I have been getting some reading in. So a couple of updates on the vacation reads front. I finished up Bad Tourists last night and generally enjoyed this one. I don't think I ever fully felt totally gripped, can't put it down like I would really like to with a thriller, but it did throw surprises at me. It had me theorizing along the way of who was up to what, and I didn't entirely see the ending coming, which is always a bonus when it comes to a thriller for me. Generally speaking, I liked our characters. I didn't necessarily feel like they were quite as fleshed out as I might have liked. I really appreciated the discussions, though, on trauma and overcoming trauma and all of that in the process of this. Some of the things happening in the present day that I felt like should maybe have had more of an impact on people didn't necessarily quite as much, but I think PTSD, the trauma of this past slaughter that happened in the prologue, really did come through well. The setting for this one, since I am picking these books based on the fact that they're vacation settings, wasn't quite what I wanted from it. They're at this resort. It sounds like a really fancy high-end resort, but there's very little sense of there being anyone else at this resort aside from our central characters. Every once in a while you'll get a comment about somebody else being around, but it really feels like this resort's totally empty aside from our main characters. When they're in the gym, it's just them. When they're sitting down to drinks, it's just them. I don't know, it just didn't quite feel like a fleshed out setting for me either. So overall, I wound up giving this one a 3.5. I think it's probably on the lower end of that, but it was a good time. It kept me entertained. What do I take away from this when it comes to my own vacation? Don't go on vacation with friends who are keeping a lot of secrets, because that was definitely a recurring theme in here. Don't go on vacation with someone who's abusing you, which was definitely an idea that comes up kind of the characters these three people meet very quickly. All of those, definitely things to avoid. And with that one finished, I did start my next vacation read. And that is The Ruins by Scott Smith. This is a gifted copy I received from Vintage, and it is set in Mexico, which is where I'm going. A different area of Mexico. East Coast, I believe, but it is a Mexico destination vacation. We've got two couples who are fairly young, just having a good time. They make friends with some people at the hotel or resort where they're staying. They don't actually really speak the same language necessarily all of the time, but one of the people from this other group that they meet goes missing, and they think it'll be just a quick jaunt out into the forest. They have a destination where they know he was going, and they just decide to hitch a ride and go out and find him. Well, when they get there, their taxi driver tells them this is a bad idea, don't go there, but they don't listen. They just assume he's trying to scam them into another ride, and they go off into the jungle, and things go wrong from there. Very, very, very wrong. This is it's not 100% hooking me in, but I did fly through the first half of it. I mean, it's only a 6-hour audiobook, so we're not talking about a super long book. It definitely has some really strong, very disturbing body horror going on in here, and it took a little bit to kind of start to figure out what was going to be the twist and turn of what was horrific here, as opposed to just them being lost in the woods or the forest or the jungle or whatever it is here. There is a lot more going on, and it is very disturbing. I was definitely kind of cringing as I was driving home tonight listening to this in the car. I would not, so far at the halfway point, recommend this to anyone who has issues with body horror or doesn't want a lot of gore and grossness in their book, because that's definitely in here. Character-wise, I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting to know the characters that well, but they are definitely growing as the book goes on. We're learning about who's good at kind of surviving and being practical, who's kind of just hoping everything will turn out, and I'm really interested to see where this is going to wind up going. So we will see, and I'll be back once I finish to share my final thoughts. I'm back with some vacation reading book updates for you, and The Ruins, I finished this one up last night, and it definitely kept going in a direction with a lot of body horror, a lot of weird stuff going on, some of which kind of came up late in the game without necessarily feeling like it makes sense why it didn't come up until late in the game. But this is one that I had a good time with overall. It's not one that's going to necessarily stick with me for a long time, although there were definitely some images in here that burrowed their way into my brain. And definitely gory, definitely horrific, not something you're going to want to expect a really happy ending from, but it was overall an entertaining read. It definitely kept me hooked to keep going, and that's really what I wanted out of this one. What did I learn about going on vacation from this book? Don't go wandering off into a jungle in Mexico. I will, stick by the pool and the bar. That seems like the best takeaway from this particular book. So with that one done, I actually wound up getting one extra book that wasn't on my original TBR because it was one that I found through the Simon Audio program, where they have audio arcs to request, and when I saw that this one was set at a luxury vacation resort, I said, well, of course I have to pick that up and throw that in with my vacation reading. So the book that I picked up is The Ends of Things by Sandra Koska, and this one came out on January 14th. And in this book, we're following Laura, who has always dreamed of travel. She's wanted to see all these fabulous places she's seen on TV and shows, and she's kept a list of places she's wanted to go. She has a new boyfriend. They've only been going out really a few months, but he hears about her desire to travel, and he has a connection that will give him a friends and family discount at a luxury resort in the Bahamas, and they decide to go for just a few days. Everything seems absolutely fantastic, but then she meets a single woman who is traveling on her own, and she becomes a little bit obsessed with this idea of traveling solo because she's always been told it's not safe for a woman to travel alone, and it's something she's felt like she's never been able to do. And so she strikes up a conversation with this woman. They get to talking and getting to know each other while her boyfriend is busy, and it seems like something is just clicking with Laura. And then this woman goes missing, and Laura becomes a little bit obsessed with trying to find out what happened, for good reason. So this one has been a little bit of a slow build-up. It's a relatively short audiobook. It's only 7.5 hours, and I'm at 54% currently. And at this point, we've just gotten to the point where this woman has disappeared. So there's questions in my mind about what happened, certainly, but I'm not feeling necessarily hooked by the story so far. This one definitely is very much present in the moment of being at a luxury all-inclusive resort, very much like the type of resort that I'm planning to go to, with good food, good drinks, and a nice pool, a beach, all of that. So I'm enjoying the setting quite a bit. The boyfriend, not liking him. I don't think we're meant to. He's a little bit controlling. He's off doing his own thing, which is fine, but he even picks on her about how she wants to wear her hair and if she's looking nice enough to go out to dinner breadwinner and those types of things. So not thinking this is going to be an end goals type of relationship story, but I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go and if I get more invested as Laura gets deeper into figuring out what's gone on. I'm back with a couple of vacation reading updates. So first of all, I finished The End of Things and I was pretty underwhelmed with how this one wound up. It felt very anticlimactic at the end. I think there were a couple of things I didn't expect by the end, but most things I predicted, and unfortunately it just didn't fully engage me, didn't fully draw me in at any point in time. I think the setting was well done when it comes to the idea of a vacation destination. I think this one really did flesh out the idea of this resort, the idea of other people being around this resort. We got stuff specific about this being set in the Bahamas and some of the food and some of the general weather and elements of this location. I think that part was really well done. I just think that the obsession with the single solo traveler didn't quite get fleshed out enough. I think the character of that woman, we didn't see enough of her to really be invested in the fact that she's missing as much as our main character is, and the idea of kind of the relationships in general just didn't quite work for me. So I'm giving this one a low 3-star, but I'm hopeful for my next book. So of my remaining books, I asked a couple friends which one I should go with, and the vote was unanimously I should read Every Time I Go on Vacation Someone Dies. This is by Catherine Mack, and it is the title that made the friend I'm traveling with the most nervous, I think, at the outset of me talking about doing this particular vlog in preparation for our vacation. This is one that I know has been well received. It's made it in some past favorite books lists, and I'm really excited going into this one and happy to report that so far it's going really well. In this one, we are following Eleanor. She is a best-selling author. She's on an author tour in Italy, and her book series in this case is actually the vacation part of the read, because her book series is basically set in different locations and people die, and it's a mystery or thriller. The main character, Connor, is someone that she knew in real life, and he's basically wormed his way into her life and her finances by claiming that she wrote the book about him, which she essentially did, but she's really fed up with him. She's plotting to kill off his character, but in real life it seems like someone is plotting to kill him. She's not sure initially if she believes him, but she's on this book tour with a bunch of other authors, and he's along for the ride. And her sister, who is her manager, also doesn't really buy it initially either, but things start happening and things start telling her that maybe there's something actually going on here. I'm really enjoying the writing in this one. It's written as a first-person perspective, but it occasionally kind of breaks the wall and she talks to the reader. She is an author, so she's talking about things like plot, or hey, this is some foreshadowing here, or I'll get to this, I need to explain it, but I need to figure out which chapter to put it into. Those types of things, which I'm finding really fun in this setting. It's the type of gimmick that can work really well or can get annoying, and in this book I'm finding it working quite well for me. So I'm gonna keep going with this one. I'm having a really fun time with it. I do have the audiobook for it too, so I've been trying to pick back up my crochet as I'm working on this and just kind of having a cozy weekend with it, but we will see how it goes. This is also for my Buzzwordathon because it's got a skyline there, and I am finishing this one up for that as well. It is a super chilly, very, very foggy morning, and it definitely has me dreaming of starting my vacation sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, I do have a couple of updates for you. I finished up Every Time I Go on Vacation Someone Dies, and this was just so much fun. I really liked the way the author used this gimmick of being an author talking to the reader. Toward the end, we get to a point where the author starts kind of discussing with us the suspects and who do we we think it is, giving us our opportunity to try to solve things. And I definitely didn't figure everything out, and I had a couple suspects which proved wrong for the most part actually, and this one very much leaned into the things that I really liked about it. I did get a couple of guesses right, but it kept me guessing, it kept me theorizing. I really enjoyed engaging with the author in that way as well, and I will absolutely be picking up the next book. And I even appreciated that this book starts talking about, well, I'll save that for the next book, those types of things. So I know that the next one has to do with a death at a wedding maybe, and that one comes out in May, so I will be looking to pick that up. But this one got a very solid, very probably on the high side, 4 stars for me. In terms of takeaways from this book, I think make sure you're traveling with people you like. Make sure you aren't getting wrapped up in local crimes potentially. And this one definitely did speak to relaxing by having a drink by the pool. So I think all of those are really good takeaways I could definitely employ on my vacation. And then since I finished that one up yesterday afternoon, I went ahead and started my final book for this vlog. And that is We Are Hunted by Tommy Oyemekinde, and this one is a YA horror. We're following Femi, and he is a young man. He is traveling with his brother and with his father, and he doesn't necessarily see eye to eye with them. His father wants different things for him than he wants from his life, and there's a little bit of contention there. His father is taking them to this island where he has some meetings, I think, and it's not what Femi would have wanted out of a vacation. But pretty quickly he changes his tune. It turns out this is a very high-tech place. He gets this fancy watch to wear that provide directions on where he needs to go on the island and different things like that. And he thinks that's pretty cool because his real passions have to do with computers and that type of stuff. The island itself is blanketed with NDAs. There's all sorts of things on this island that no one has ever seen before. And this seems really cool to explore until it seems like maybe it's a little bit dangerous. Femi winds up kind of encountering some of these animals and getting himself in a tough spot, and the way he gets out of that tough spot gets him into another tough spot, and there's a lot of that going on. This took a little while to get going, and we're kind of at that point now where things are really starting to take off, but so far I'd say it's pulling some punches a little bit. We're not necessarily going into depth when it comes to the mayhem and the destruction and the body horror or anything that could be going on with this island, and I'd like to get a little bit more of that in the second half, so we will see how that goes. I have now finished my final vacation resort book, and I unfortunately am ending this on not the best note. This one wasn't a big win for me. I think the concept was really interesting. The idea of this island was really interesting, but it just was lacking something for me. I think I wanted it to have a few more creepy moments or a few more severe horror moments. It feels like it pulled a few punches. There are definitely stakes in here. Not everything ends well for everyone. Not everything ends well for our characters. It absolutely had some good discussions about colonization and appropriation and different concepts like that. I just wanted it to go a step further, I think, in a lot of ways. I liked our main character, Femi, most of the time, but he did have moments where he came across a lot younger than I think he was meant to in this situation. And there were a lot of issues between him and his brother and his father that I wanted to see a little more depth and fleshing out in terms of resolving some of those issues as well. Overall, I'm giving this one a 3-star. It wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't really what I kind of wanted from it, and part of that is on me, I think, for just putting expectations on it probably. I think it's one worth checking out. Like I said, it did have some really interesting ideas and concepts and all of that going on in here, so there were positives. it just didn't quite grab my attention and draw me in and make me struggle to put it down, which is really what I was hoping for from it. I think the takeaway on this book is if you show up to your island resort and they tell you you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, maybe you want to find a different resort. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap this vlog up here. I think I got some good lessons on what not to do for a vacation, and I'm looking forward to actually going on my real vacation. I will be vlogging a little bit while I'm gone. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of reading, definitely going to eat some good food, drink some drinks, go out on a boat trip, maybe do who knows what. Maybe just sit by the pool. I will see when I get there, but I am counting the days, very eager to get to Mexico. So let me know in the comments below, do you have any exciting travel plans coming up? Do you have any places that you would like to visit, even if you don't have any concrete plans? Or do you have any destination type reads you would recommend? I'd love to hear all the things down below. And if you've made it this far and don't have anything to comment, leave me a luggage emoji or a plane emoji, something that makes you think of travel. If you could hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in my vacation reading, my experience in Mexico, and my bookish content in general. But for now, I will leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.